Good evening and welcome to Train Aficionado Live. I'm Jonathan Higgins. We've got a great show planned for you tonight. We're going to talk about signaling. A lot of railroads use it, and it has quite a history. And we're going to take a look at it, which is going to be able to help you rail fan while you're out there. So we've got a great show. We also have some interesting facts and trivia coming up. So definitely buckle up and enjoy tonight's show. So that's tonight's topic: railroad signaling and fun facts. Don't forget, you can always support the channel by shopping our store. We have some brand new t shirts and hoodies, and even a baseball hat available on our website. You can shop the website at trainaficionado.com. That is the website for our store and also our blog. Haven't been blogging lately. I hope to get back into a weekly blog. Um, so I'm looking forward to doing more of that. So we've got a great show coming up in a couple of weeks. I had the opportunity to be able to interview the producers, directors, and editors of the of a phenomenal documentary, The Empire Builder, the James J. Hill, and the Great Northern Railway. So, this is a great story about a gentleman that a lot of people don't know of, and you can learn a lot about his life. The the documentary is now available, so definitely check that out. Just do a quick Google search of this, and you'll be able to find the website, which is, I believe, it's Great Northern Filmworks.com. So check out the website and definitely download this. This interview will be available. Will be premiering, I should say, on Wednesday, November the 16th. So the week before Thanksgiving. So definitely, if you're able to check out the film, and then we'll have the interview of Stephen and Kyle from the Great Northern Filmworks, which will be a great presentation. So we hope that you join us for the next Train Aficionado show right here on the YouTube channel. If you haven't already, make sure you hit the subscribe button. That'll help us to grow the channel as well. We've got a whole bunch of videos available on the YouTube channel, including this one here, the 20-mile photographic journey up and through the Horseshoe Curve. So this was a really cool presentation that I was able to do for the Cincinnati Railroad Club. They asked me to speak at one of their meetings, so I was able to do this this presentation, and I ended up doing it as a show. So definitely check that out if you're a fan of the Horseshoe Curve or the area around it, or you haven't rail fanned there. Definitely check it out. I give a whole bunch of information about where to rail fan throughout the area. And if you haven't already, I just mentioned it a little bit ago, make sure you subscribe to the channel, Train Aficionado. And if you haven't already, check out our other social media as well, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well. So vertical colored light signals. So the United States ended up installing signals back in the 1860s. You know, there was different variations of it. These vertical light signals are basically what's used today on many railroads. And of course, some of these signals, these defined colored signals, ended up coming around in the around 1805. So there's so many different types of signals that are out there. So I'm going to cover some basic ones tonight. I'm just going to let you know that I'm not an expert at signals, so I was able to do some research online and be able to put together the show for you. So, you know, if my information is not totally perfect, I'm just letting you know that, you know, I'm still learning them. So the most simplest one when we're out rail fanning, of course, if you're at a spot where you're able to see the signals, this is going to be extremely helpful to be able to know what you're looking at signal-wise. this is one of the most easiest ones. When you see typically those vertical signals and you see uh, all three indicating red, this basically means stop. So a train approaching this signal must stop at this signal and shouldn't pass. They get a little bit more interesting as we take a look at the additional slides. So this signal here, we have a green, red, red. This basically means that the line is clear for at least two signal blocks. So they're able to kind of keep motoring along, and this indicates that they should be okay for the next couple of signal blocks. So it's almost like a traffic light, but it's kind of warning you, you could be slowing down at a signal or two ahead. But basically this is a good signal. For a rail fan, when you see green, red, red, that means something's going to be eventually coming in that particular direction. So that's a good sign when you're out trackside. Here's probably the signal that they would see if there's some activity up ahead. Somebody's in the block ahead. Approach signals. So basically, prepare to stop at the next signal. So more than likely, they'll approach this signal, and then the next signal, of course, will be all red. So this kind of indicates that there is traffic ahead, and be prepared to stop. So this one is a medium clear. So that basically means a medium speed route is clear for two signals. So, this is going to be a slower train traveling through, because they're not going at a great clip. They're not going to approach the traffic ahead as quick as something like the Acela. If they were on a route where the Acela was running, where that's going anywhere from a little bit over 100 miles an hour. And the medium traffic will be a much less than that. And of course, slow traffic will be even slower. But you may see something like this out and about when you're rail fanning, and that's basically what this means. So medium approach, almost like the other signal that we looked at a little bit ago. So this basically means that the route is clear for medium traffic, but can be one signal block could end up stopping. So and of course Steven's on, so that's good. Yeah. I know the very basics of it, so if there's anything that you can contribute, be more than happy to go from there. A slow signal. So proceed slow, clear for at least two blocks. So that's that slower traffic. So basically, if I understand it correctly, doing the research, the top aspect is basically for the higher speed traffic. The next is medium, and then the one that's down the bottom is for the slower traffic. But there's variations in these signals. Slow approach. So low speed traffic on the route means that they are going to more likely have to stop at the next signal. So this is basically a warning coming up to the next signal on the line. Okay, so we got one more little category, which are called distant approach signals. These are often referred to as approach signals, as they are signal blocks right before an interlocking. So an interlocking is typically where trains are able to, like if there's two tracks, they're able to cross from track one to track two, and so on and so forth. Kind of like what you see in this photograph here of the Chicago commuter rail train leaving downtown Chicago. So we've got an approach signal. So high speed route is clear for one signal block, medium, and the slow route must stop. Medium approach, high speed route is clear for one signal block. Medium speed route is clear for two blocks. And slow approach, this is the high speed route is clear for one signal block. Low speed is clear for 2 signal blocks. These are a little complicated. I basically just reading them off, and um, so if you see any combination of these, this is basically what it means. All right. Now let's get into the trivia portion of the broadcast. Some of the interesting things. Um, so track 61 is a part of New York City's um, Grand Central Station, Grand Central Terminal. Sorry. Underneath is basically a secret escape um, for the trains to New York City. Originally, was built to carry freight and serve as local loading, like a loading platform. The track 61 is actually owned by the Waldorf Astoria Hotel, which houses a door that leads to the station. It has been said that a lot of people have used this, including the military to celebrities and past presidents. So it's kind of an interesting thing. The track 61 is not been claimed abandoned as of right now, and there was originally some passenger cars that were located on that line have now been relocated to a Connecticut museum. So So that's a cool thing, There's been a lot of interesting things, especially in cities where um, you think about it, where cities that have subway lines will have stations that were abandoned or relocated along the route. Take, for instance, the city of Cincinnati, which has an interesting story. I don't know all the details, but they were in the process of building a subway route underneath the city, and basically it never came about. I mean, there is stations and tunnels that are still under the city that were built and never used. Certainly a crazy thing. As for in Boston, there are a couple of subway lines that are not used underground, and some underground stations, some of which have been used for films, to be able to use that space, for shooting films and such. So there's so much to uncover when it comes to the railroads. Not only that, but some of the abandoned railroad lines as well, which is super interesting. If you're following some abandoned routes, you can do it in so many different ways, whether it be um, on a desktop computer, looking at Google Maps or Google Earth. Google Earth is a great place to start, to be able to see those cuts, where you think there may be abandoned line. You can kind of look at Google Earth and kind of see eventually, oh, there's a pathway, running from here to here, and then you can kind of follow it, which is really interesting. Let's take a look at some more interesting facts. So the Civil War, I mean, there was a lot of rail lines that were built during this time, and of course, there was a lot of battles that were happening. Lincoln actually sent 20,000 replacement troops from Washington D.C. to Georgia, and of course, the rails certainly helped with that. And this was crucial to protect the railroad territories under. The Union General William Sherman, they marched through Georgia and Carolinas, basically destroying thousands of miles of Confederate rail. And he ended up getting a nickname, Sherman's neckties. He left a heap of twisted iron rail out and about. I can't imagine doing that today with the high quality of rail and the amount it weighs, especially in those high speed lines. But it's amazing. The even back then, rail played a huge role traveling. And sticking with Abe Lincoln, the assassination basically kind of brought the rails to light as well. George Pullman designed two types of sleeper cars by the 1863, and they were extremely comfortable but extremely expensive. So the railroads weren't interested in using them. One of his sleeper cars was used for the funeral train of the president, Abraham Lincoln. And also, they loaned a car to Mary Todd Lincoln for the journey. Pullman actually opened a company called Pullman Palace Cars Company. And shortly after Pullman's death, Robert Todd Lincoln, President Lincoln's son, actually took over the company. So it's kind of a really cool thing. And if you think about it, a lot of presidents way back when traveled by train when campaigning. It was a great place to be able to ride a train and hit a whole bunch of smaller communities um, in one swath. I mean, you think of today's campaigning for a president, they're landing in major cities, large airports, campaigning out and about in those regions. With a train, of course, it's connecting those larger metropolitan areas. But in order to get to those metropolitan areas, it bridges to those smaller communities that are along those train routes. So, they were able to stop the train. The president or the person running for president could, talk to those people in each town, spend a few minutes there, and then mosey on through. So, trains are certainly an awesome thing to be able to do that way back in the day. You don't see very much of that anymore. Most of the time, people campaigning are using planes versus trains. Um, but the trains are certainly a great way of traveling, that's for sure. Let's return back to the slide deck and continue on. So this was an interesting one: a train versus a horse. So in 1830, Peter Cooper was testing an engine on the B&O tracks. So basically, a horse was drawn train challenged the actual steam locomotive. So, of course, the steam locomotive roared into the lead, but they had an issue with a belt, and the belt broke. So the horse ended up winning the race. However, B&O was impressed and convinced them to go to steam, and which was an interesting thing. And of course, I believe that's how horsepower came about, the term horsepower, which is an interesting one as well. Now, we travel on these roadways each and every day, and we see trucks all over the place. So, can you imagine that one train can do the work of 300 trucks? It's a lot. One rail car can carry as much as 4 truckloads of freight. 4 truckloads, that's a lot. Most rail cars can carry up to a staggering 286,000 pounds. The average truck can only carry about 80,000 pounds. And thanks to the railroads, there's less than 300 trucks on the road because trains can ship, 300 trucks worth of shipments. I mean, you look at some of the larger companies. If you're looking at the intermodal trains that are going by, you can see that Amazon has their intermodal containers on there. I've seen Walmart. Of course, you see a lot of those foreign carriers as well, but you're starting to see a lot of local companies embracing, using trains. And of course, they're still going to use trucks to service locally. The thing that I was kind of talking to about with my dad when when we were out rail fanning back in when was it, in September, I think. Yeah, over Labor was it Labor Day? Yeah, Labor Day weekend. I was saying I'm really surprised that Amazon didn't build their distribution centers right by a rail line, because they could basically get the deliveries of these Amazon intermodals, offload them off the train, and then, of course, be right connected to the railroad. So, to be able to provide, um, their facilities, stuff right off the tracks. But I mean, they're starting to use the railroads, for things that are traveling across the country. And of course, Walmart is another one that's using it as well. I've seen some Walmart intermodal cars. So, I mean, that's definitely a great way to be able to get goods across the country relatively easy and quick. Um, Got another interesting slide here, so we'll take a look at that right now. And this is regarding time zones. Matter of fact, we are going to change the time this Sunday. So we're going to go fall back. So of course, fall back in the fall, and then spring ahead is where we lose an hour. So time zones were adopted, I should say, and standardized in 1847. Britain was the first place to be able to do that. United States took about 40 plus years later to be able to do this. So on November the 18th of 1883, at noon, the United States Naval Observatory sent out a telegram signaling the mark of 12 p.m. Eastern Time. It became law of the land in 1918, and was instituted as a daylight savings time, was designated to conserve resources during World War II. So interesting that the railroads had a lot to do with that. You would think that the railroads, especially passenger service, had to run on a schedule, and of course needed some sort of time to be able to know when your train's going to arrive and depart. And of course, crossing the country, now we know that there's multiple time zones in the United States. Of course, those time zones reflect for these long distance trains. So that was, I mean, certainly a lot of interesting things have came about because of the railroads. I'm just amazed, some of the things that you can learn. I'm really looking forward to the next show, where we're going to be talking to the gentleman that actually put together a really phenomenal film. I actually have a copy of it right here. The Empire Builder, James J. Hill, and the Great Northern Railway. Um, it is 4 hours long, and it is super interesting. Basically, going through his life and how he basically built what we know today as the Empire Builder route. That route is one of the most straightest and shortest routes. Um, Certainly a great thing. You can purchase this on DVD, which they have on the website, or you can rent it for about $29.95, I think, or 99. Certainly a great thing to check out. We're going to be interviewing them. Just a phenomenal interview that I sat down with them. So we'll be premiering that show on Wednesday, November the 16th. So that'll be the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. So definitely tune in for that. It's been a great year for being able to do a ton of shows for you guys, and we're really looking forward to doing some more shows. So we would love to hear your suggestions regarding, what shows you'd like to see in the future. I know there's been a lot of people asking about Danny Harmon. We would love to have him on again on the show. I mean, he's certainly a fountain of knowledge, and he's certainly a great guest to have on here as well. So hopefully we'll be able to get him on soon. I see a lot of check-ins throughout the United States, and of course, we've got Canada. Good evening, Les, Stephen, Arthur, um, Chris. Of course, we got our couple of Chris's out there. Thank you so much for joining this evening. Of course, Rhode Island in the house. Boy, that's a nice, warm 70 degrees today for New England. As many of you know, I'm originally a New Englander. So, 70 in November, that's a good day. That's for sure. I mean, things start to get a little bit chilly, and you're starting to have to kick on the heat. If you haven't already, you're basically doing it about now. So we're really looking forward to doing some additional shows, next year. So we're looking for topics. So if you could let us know what topics you like to see. And Kevin joining us from Georgia. Good evening, Kevin. Thank you for watching. Thank you all for basically coming out and watching each and every Wednesday night, whether it's on the Scanner Guys or the Train Aficionado show. Just want to remind you, you can help support the channel by shopping our store, trainaficionado.com. We have we of course have some hats, t-shirts, hoodies. We've got several things available there, and of course, it helps us to be able to keep the things running. And we do have some streaming services that we use to be able to bring you advanced broadcasts, and of course, we're trying to improve equipment along the way so we can bring you a higher quality broadcast each and every night. So this is the interview I was talking about. So we're going to interview the folks over at the Great Northern Filmworks, Stephen and Kyle. They're both producers, directors, and editors, and they've worked on this film for many years, putting this together, and traveled across 7 states to be able to shoot some of the film that was in there and interview the various people that talk about James J. Hill and the Empire Builder and the Great Northern. So definitely check out this broadcast coming up on Wednesday, November the 16th. So I'm really looking forward to that. We'll actually air the trailer to the film and then show the interview. So that'll premiere at 8 o'clock Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Time, right here on the channel. So that's definitely a good thing to check out. And as always, don't forget to check out the YouTube channel and check out all the videos we have. We basically have a video that we premiered a couple weeks ago, 20-mile journey, photographic journey up and through the Horseshoe Curve. One of my favorite slide decks. It took me about a month to put together, and basically going over all the great rail fanning spots along the way. Make sure you follow, like, and subscribe to the social media as well. And don't forget Twitter. And while you're at the website, make sure you sign up for the Trackside Bulletin. Occasionally, we do send some emails along the way, so we don't spam you. So definitely you can sign up safely through the website. Yeah, so there's going to be a great show coming up next week for the Scanner Guys. I'll tell you a little bit about that this evening. So the Scanner Guys, we're going to be talking about some of those holiday gifts, and we're going to have some suggestions on what scanners that you can purchase and what accessories you can pair up with those scanners. So if you're looking to get a new scanner, whether it be for rail fanning, aviation, maritime, or listening to the local public safety, we're going to kind of cover a wide variety of scanners, and in different packages and different options that you can take up and take a look at. Let's Go Rail Fanning is joining us this evening. So we're looking forward to, of course, the next couple of shows. So definitely tune in. Any questions before we wrap it up this evening? I know that was a quick show, but we wanted to give you some background on signals and go from there, because the signals are certainly a great thing to be able to know when you're trackside, especially if you have a visual of the signal. You can kind of see, if there's a train coming. I was actually rail fanning along the Hudson River in New York, and the great thing about their signals, I'm sure they probably changed it, is they would remain dark until something would eventually get in the signal block and then would illuminate. And as soon as I could see that they illuminated, I knew that there would be something coming shortly. A lot of signal systems have changed over time, but there's so many different signal arrays, and you got to figure out, what you're looking at there. But if you've got the basics, you can kind of tell, okay, it's going to be, if it's red, red, and you're able to peer on the other side and be able to see that it's red, red on that side, you may not have something coming for a while. But if you see like that green, red, red indication on those, you'll be able to say, yeah, something's going to be coming eventually. So one of the places that I actually rail fan is in Glendale, Ohio, and there's a signal right there. I'm able to see the signal from my I don't know, perch or in the parking lot, rail fanning. I'm able to see that signal. And a lot of times, it'll be green for a while. I'm thinking it must be coming from Cincinnati. At some point, it's going to come north. So, definitely it's a great thing to be able to read those signals and kind of pay attention to them. Along with, of course, I can't stress enough listening on the scanner. So if you hear a lot of communication on the scanner, especially if you're um, of uh, outside of Cincinnati, you're going to hear communication with the dispatcher with trains coming in and out of Cincinnati, and also being able to uh, be able to hear that communication as trains travel north, especially on a busy active line. So typically, there's some parts of the country you don't hear a lot of communication, but if you're within a metropolitan area, you're going to hear a little bit more traffic or on a busier line. If there's a line where there's only a train that heads in each direction, you're not going to hear a lot of communication, but you may have some signal detectors. And what that basically means, it's an automated system where you would hear when they pass a milepost. A lot of times they're checking the train for various things, whether a load's not balanced or for a flat wheel or something of that nature. And the detector would indicate, track one, no defects, milepost, blah, 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 blah. Total axles. Well, some of them actually tell you that. There's one on the Northeast corridor that doesn't tell you the axles, but it's in, I'm trying to remember, Pawtucket, I believe, is where that detector was that I listened to on the Northeast corridor. It told you the temperature. So I knew whether or not I needed a jacket in the morning or not if I was able to hear that detector. So a lot of detectors, will give you a little bit of information, some of which will give you temperature, some of which will give you the number of axles. I mean, I've heard some trains um, that have had 800 axles. So it's a big, massive train. You think of it, each car has got like a box car, for example, has got two axles on the front truck and two axles on the rear. So that accounts for four axles for that box car. And then the locomotives tend to have on the trucks tend to have three and three, so that basically is typically six. But yeah, I mean, it depends on it. But yeah, you can usually tell when you're hearing 800 axles or 600 axles, it's a pretty decent sized train. So definitely keep that in mind. Let's see what else there is. Any other questions? I don't see any, but I thank you so much for joining us this evening. I know this is a shorter show. Um, we're looking forward to doing some shows where we incorporate not only a talking segment, but maybe some video that was short, that was shot out in the field, and we can incorporate that as well into the show. So we're really looking forward to that. Just want to remind you one more time, great interview coming up with the producers of this DVD, the Empire Builder, the James J. Hill, and the Great Northern Railway documentary. It is 4 hours long. It is well done and well worth the watch. That show will be in a couple weeks, which will be November the 16th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. So if you're able to rent it, go to the website, which is the Great Northern Filmworks.com, and you can rent it through their website and watch it, and then definitely watch the interview with the producers of it, and they're going to tell you a little bit of behind the scenes, what it was like putting together the movie, the actually the documentary, I should say, and of course it's one of my favorite interviews so far. I've had a lot of favorites, but this one definitely was interesting, talking to them about the film. I mean, they're not rail fans, but they found that um, that it was fascinating learning the life of James Hill, and how detailed he was, and the photographic memory he had. I mean, he really got involved with the rail lines. So definitely check out the documentary. That's the Great Northern Filmworks.com is the website. If you're able to rent it, it's $29.99. And then watch the interview. I mean, the interview is going to be great, with these gentlemen. Both of them have produced documentaries for PBS. They're award winning. Certainly going to be a great show coming up. So until then, you can catch me at the next show, which is the Scanner Guys, which will be airing the following Wednesday, which is the 9th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific, live on the Scanner Guys YouTube channel. And then, of course, we'll be back on the Train Aficionado channel. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Do that now. It'll help us out. And then, of course, check out the website, trainaficionado.com. We would love for you to be able to see what we've got going on there and to sign up for the newsletter. So thank you so much for joining me this evening. We'll catch you again next week. And thank you to everyone that's been able to watch it live. And those of you that watch it when it's posted, thank you so much for supporting the channel. We really appreciate it. Have a great night and be safe out there.